Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked out the small window of the shuttle. The planet Valthara stretched below them, covered in golden deserts and silver cities that sparkled like jewels in the alien sun. He had been to many worlds during his 10 years as a diplomat, but this one felt different. More dangerous? First time seeing a Cathani world? Asked Dr. Amy Parker, the team's language expert. She was a small woman with brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. It's beautiful, but don't let that fool you. The people who live? Here are warriors first, everything else second. Jake nodded. He knew the facts about the Cathani from his briefing files. They looked like huge cats that walked on 2 legs, with golden fur that shined like metal and bright amber eyes. They were strong, fast, and lived by a code of honor that put fighting above all else. Their women ruled their society, and their men followed orders without question. "Remember," said Lieutenant Ben Clark from the pilot's seat, "we're here to get mining rights for the crystals. Nothing more, nothing less. Get in, make the deal, get out." Ben was a solid man with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of military service. He trusted aliens about as much as he trusted a snake in his bed. The shuttle touched down in the capital city with a soft bump. Jake straightened his blue diplomatic uniform and checked his tablet one more time. The information was simple enough. Humanity needed the special crystals that grew only on Valthara to power their faster-than-light engines. The Cathani had more crystals than they knew what to do with, but they had never wanted to trade with humans before. Why now? Jake had asked his superior back on Earth. What changed their minds? "Their old enemies are getting stronger," came the reply. "They need allies, and we need crystals. It should be a simple trade." Jake should have known that nothing involving aliens was ever simple. The doors of the shuttle opened, and Jake got his first real look at the Cathani. 3 of them stood waiting, each one nearly 7 feet tall and covered in fur that looked like spun gold. Their eyes were the color of honey, and when they moved, Jake could see the muscles under their fur ripple like water. The leader was a male named Korith. He wore simple brown robes and kept his head down when he spoke. "Welcome to Valthara," he said in heavily accented English. "The matriarchs are waiting for you." They walked through streets made of smooth white stone. The buildings around them were tall and curved, built to look like they were growing from the ground itself. Cathani citizens stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. Some looked curious, others looked angry, and a few looked like they wanted to start a fight right there in the street. "They don't like us much," Ben muttered under his breath. "Can you blame them?" Amy whispered back. "We're the new kids in the galaxy. They've been fighting wars among the stars since before humans discovered fire." The palace was a massive building made of crystal and gold. It stretched up toward the sky like a mountain, with towers that caught the sunlight and threw it back in rainbow colors. Jake had seen pictures of it in his files, but the real thing took his breath away. Inside, the halls were even more impressive. The walls were made of the same crystals that humanity wanted to buy, and they glowed with soft light. The floor was polished stone that reflected everything like a mirror. Jake could hear the sound of their footsteps echoing in the vast spaces. "The matriarchs will see you now," Korith said, stopping in front of huge double doors. "Remember, do not speak unless spoken to. Do not make sudden movements. And whatever you do, do not challenge them." The doors opened, and Jake stepped into the throne room. It was the biggest room he had ever seen, with a ceiling so high that it disappeared into shadows. At the far end, 5 huge chairs sat on a raised platform. 4 of them held Cathani females, each one bigger and more impressive than the last. The 5th chair was empty, but as Jake watched, another Cathani female entered from a side door. She was younger than the others, maybe Amy's age, with silver-streaked golden fur and eyes like burning coals. She moved like a dancer, but Jake could see the weapons on her belt and the way her muscles moved under her fur. This was someone who knew how to fight. "I am Elder Matriarch Valandra," said the oldest of the seated females. Her voice was deep and strong, like distant thunder. "These are my fellow matriarchs. And this," she pointed to the young female, is Princess Zarathic, my successor and the greatest warrior of our generation. Jake bowed as he had been taught. I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing humanity in these negotiations. This is Dr. Amy Parker, our cultural specialist, and Lieutenant Ben Clark, our security chief. Security chief? Princess Zarathic laughed. And the sound was not friendly. What do you need security for? Do you expect us to attack you while you sit in our throne room? It's just a title, Jake said quickly. Lieutenant Clark is here to ensure our safety during travel, nothing more. Safety, Zarathic repeated, walking closer to the humans. Tell me, Captain Morrison, have you ever been in battle? Have you ever fought for your life with nothing but your hands and your courage? Jake felt his heart speed up. This was not going the way he had hoped. I've been in dangerous situations, Princess. I've served in the human military, and the human military, Zarathic interrupted, where you hide behind machines and shoot at enemies from far away, where you never look into the eyes of the one you're fighting, where you never test your strength against another's. With respect, Princess, Amy said, stepping forward, humans have a different way of fighting. We use tools and tactics and tools. And tactics, Zarathic spat, the weapons of the weak. The Cathani have conquered 12 worlds with nothing but our claws and our courage. We have held our borders against enemies who outnumber us 10 to 1. We have built an empire that has lasted for 3,000 years. And now you need our help? Ben said quietly. The room went silent. Jake saw the other matriarchs shift in their chairs, and he knew that Ben had just said something very dangerous. Princess Zarathic's eyes narrowed. What did you say? I said you need our help, Ben repeated. If you didn't, we wouldn't be here. Your old enemies are getting stronger and you need allies. That's why you're willing to trade with humans for the first time in 50 years. You think we are weak? Zarathic's voice was getting louder. You think the Cathani need help from soft creatures who have never known real battle? I think, Jake said, trying to calm things down, that strong people know when to ask for help. There's no shame in working together. No shame? Zarathic laughed again. You know nothing about shame, human. You know nothing about honor or strength or what it means to be a warrior. She was walking toward Jake now, her hand moving to the weapon at her side. It was a spear, about 4 feet long, with a crystal tip that glowed with inner light. Jake had read about Cathani weapons in his files. They were made for each warrior personally and were considered sacred. You want to make a deal with us? Zarathic said. You want our crystals so your ships can fly faster? Then prove to me that humans are worthy of our respect. How? Jake asked, though he was starting to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. Zarathic smiled, and Jake saw teeth that were far too sharp. Show me that you're not a coward. Before Jake could ask what she meant, the princess pulled her spear from her belt and threw it directly at his chest. It moved like lightning, spinning through the air with a sound like singing metal. Jake didn't think. He didn't have time to think. His body moved on its own, trained by years of baseball in his youth and military drills in his adult life. His right hand came up and caught the spear just behind the crystal tip, stopping it inches from his heart. The throne room fell completely silent. Jake looked down at the spear in his hand, then up at Princess Zarathic's face. Her eyes were wide with shock, and her mouth was open like she couldn't believe what she had just seen. By the ancestors, Elder Matriarch Valandra whispered, the ancient law has been awakened. Jake Morrison stood frozen in the middle of the throne room, still holding the crystal-tipped spear. The weapon felt warm in his hand, and he could see his own reflection in its polished surface. Around him, the silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Princess Zarathic stared at him with wide eyes. Her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to speak but couldn't find the words. The other matriarchs were whispering to each other in their own language, their voices getting louder and more urgent with each passing second. What just happened? Amy whispered. She was standing close to Jake, her hand moving slowly toward the small translator device on her belt. I don't know, Jake whispered back, but I don't think it was good. Elder Matriarch Valandra stood up from her throne. She was the oldest Cathani Jake had ever seen, with silver fur and deep lines around her amber eyes. When she moved, the other matriarchs fell silent immediately. "Princess Zarathik," she said in a voice like grinding stone. "Did you throw your personal weapon at this human in challenge?" Zarathik's face went pale under her golden fur. Yes, Elder Mother, but I never thought he would." "And did this human catch your weapon without fear or hesitation?" "Yes." "But then the strength claim has been made." Valandra's words hit the room like a hammer blow. The ancient law has been awakened after 300 years of sleep. Jake felt his stomach drop. "Ancient law? What ancient law?" Ben Clark stepped forward, his hand moving to his sidearm. "Whatever this is, we don't want any part of it. We're here on a diplomatic mission, nothing more." "You have no choice in this matter," Valandra said. "The law is older than our written history. It cannot be ignored or set aside." "What law?" Amy demanded. "What are you talking about?" Valandra walked down from her throne, moving slowly but with purpose. "Long ago, when our people were young and the galaxy was full of dangers, we created the strength claim. It was designed to find the strongest warriors from among all races, not just our own." She stopped in front of Jake, looking down at him with ancient eyes. "When a warrior of royal blood throws their personal weapon at another being in challenge, and that being catches it without fear, they have proven their strength. The law says that the warrior now belongs to the one who caught their weapon." "Belongs to?" Jake's voice cracked. "I don't want to own anyone." "And I don't want to be owned," Zarathik snarled. "This is madness. I am the heir to the throne. I have refused marriage offers from the greatest houses in the galaxy. I will not be given to a human like some prize." "The law does not care what you want," Valandra said sadly. "It only cares about strength. Captain Morrison caught your weapon. By our most sacred traditions, you now belong to him." Jake looked at the spear in his hand, then at Princess Zarathik's angry face. "This is crazy. I don't want to own anyone. People aren't property." "Tell that to the law," one of the other matriarchs said bitterly. "It has stood for thousands of years. It cannot be changed." "Everything can be changed," Amy said, pulling out her translator and starting to work frantically. "There has to be a way to break this law. Some kind of escape clause, or—" "There are only two ways," Valandra interrupted. "The bonded warrior can challenge their claimant to ritual combat to the death, or the warrior can formally acknowledge the strength and worthiness of their claimant before the entire court." "Combat to the death?" Ben's hand was now resting on his weapon. "That doesn't sound like much of a choice." "It is the way of our people," Valandra said. "Strength is everything. The strong rule, the weak serve. It has always been so." Jake looked at Princess Zarathik. She was beautiful in an alien way, with her golden fur and burning eyes. But more than that, she was clearly dangerous. He could see the way she moved, like a predator ready to strike. The idea of fighting her to the death was terrifying. "What if I just give the spear back?" he asked hopefully. "What if we pretend this never happened?" "Too late," Valandra said. "The law has been awakened. Every Cathani in the galaxy will know within days. If you try to leave without claiming your prize, our people will see it as an insult to our most sacred traditions." "And if he stays?" Amy asked. "Then Princess Zarathik belongs to him. She must obey his commands, serve his needs, and follow him wherever he goes." Zarathik made a sound like a growling cat. "I will die first." "That is your choice," Valandra said. "Challenge him to combat. If you win, you are free. If you lose, you die." "This is insane," Jake said. "There has to be another way." "There is," said a new voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned to see another Cathani entering the throne room. This one was even older than Valandra, with white fur and eyes like silver coins. She walked with a cane, but Jake could see the strength in her movements. "Honored ancestor," Valandra said, bowing deeply, "I did not know you were awake." "The ancient law calls, and I answer," the old Cathani said. "I am Matriarch Cathara, keeper of the old ways. I was there when the strength claim was last used." 300 years ago," Valandra said with respect. "Yes, and I remember why the law was created." Cathara looked at Jake with her silver eyes. It was not meant to create slaves, human. It was meant to bring strength to our people from outside our race. I don't understand, Jake said. Long ago we were dying, Cathara explained. Our enemies were stronger, our numbers were falling, and our empire was crumbling. We needed new strength, new ideas, new ways of thinking. The strength claim was created to find worthy beings from other races and bring them into our families. Bring them in how? Amy asked. Through marriage, Cathara said simply. The law was never about ownership. It was about partnership. When a warrior's weapon is caught by another, it means they have found their equal, their mate. The room erupted in noise. The other matriarchs started shouting in their own language, while Zarathic's face went from pale to bright red. Marriage? Jake's voice was barely a whisper. That's impossible, Ben said. Humans and Cathani can't. I mean, they're not even the same species. The ceremony is symbolic, Cathara said calmly. It creates a bond between the two beings, making them partners in all things. They share strength, share wisdom, share responsibility for each other's honor. I will not marry a human, Zarathic said through gritted teeth. I will not be bonded to a weak alien who knows nothing of honor. Then challenge him, Cathara said. But know this, child, if you fight him and lose, you will die. If you fight him and win, you will have broken the ancient law and brought shame to our people. Either way, you will lose everything you hold dear. Jake looked around the room at all the angry faces. This was supposed to be a simple diplomatic mission. Get the crystals, make the trade, go home. Now he was apparently married to an alien princess who wanted to kill him. What happens if I refuse? He asked. Then you insult our most sacred law. Valandra said, our people will see it as an act of war. The Galactic Council will be forced to choose between humanity and the Cathani Empire. And if I accept? Then you become part of our family, Cathara said. You and Princess Zarathic will be bonded according to our traditions. You will share her rank, her responsibilities, and her power. Jake looked at the spear in his hand, then at Princess Zarathic's furious face. How long do I have to decide? The ceremony must take place within 7 days, Valandra said. Or the law will consider you to have refused the claim. 7 days, Jake repeated, to decide whether to marry an alien princess or start a war. Those are your choices, Cathara said sadly. I am sorry, human. The law is ancient and strong. It cannot be changed. Jake felt the weight of the crystal spear in his hand. It was beautiful and deadly, just like the alien princess who had thrown it at him. He thought about his comfortable life on Earth, his small apartment, his quiet job pushing papers and making trade agreements. All of that seemed very far away now. I need to think, he said finally. Of course, Valandra said. You will be given quarters in the palace. You and your companions will be treated as honored guests while you consider your decision. And Princess Zarathic? She will remain in the palace as well. The law requires that she stay near her claimant until the matter is resolved. Jake looked at Zarathic one more time. She was staring at him with a mixture of anger and something else? Fear, maybe, or confusion. This is not over, she said quietly. I will find a way out of this madness. I hope you do, Jake said honestly. Because I don't want to own anyone, and I don't want to start a war. As guards led them out of the throne room, Jake kept thinking about the spear in his hand and the alien princess who had thrown it. 7 days to decide the fate of 2 species. 7 days to figure out a way out of an impossible situation. It was going to be a long week. Jake Morrison sat on the edge of the bed in his guest room, staring at the crystal spear that had changed his life. 3 days had passed since the incident in the throne room, and he was no closer to finding a solution. The weapon lay across his knees, its crystal tip catching the light from the window and throwing rainbow patterns on the wall. Amy knocked on the door before entering. She carried a thick tablet filled with research notes and looked like she hadn't slept in days. Any luck? Jake asked. Some, Amy said, sitting down in the chair across from him. I've been talking to the palace scholars about the strength claim law. It's more complicated than we thought. How so? The law was created during something called the Great Dying, about 4,000 years ago. The Cathani population dropped to almost nothing. Wars, disease, genetic problems from too much intermarriage within their own species. They were facing extinction. Jake nodded. Matriarch Cathara mentioned something like that. The strength claim was their solution. They would find the strongest warriors from other races and bring them into Cathani families, not as slaves but as partners. The idea was to bring new strength, new ideas, new genetic material into their people. And it worked. It saved their civilization. For about 1,000 years, they actively sought out warriors from other species. Some of their greatest leaders were originally aliens who proved themselves through the strength claim. Jake frowned. So what changed? They got strong again. Rich, powerful, proud. They decided they didn't need help from other races anymore. The law was forgotten, pushed aside, treated like an embarrassing reminder of their weakness. Until now, Amy agreed. Jake, I think Princess Zarathic threw that spear on purpose. Jake looked up in surprise. What do you mean? I don't think she was just angry. I think she was testing you, testing all of us. Before Jake could respond, there was another knock at the door. Ben Clark entered, looking grim. We have a problem, he said. I just got word from the ship. The Galactic Council is sending a fleet to Valthara. They think we're being held hostage. Are we? Jake asked. I don't know. The Cathani aren't stopping us from leaving, but they're not exactly encouraging it either. And if we leave now, it means I'm rejecting the claim, Jake finished. Which means war. That's what I'm afraid of. Amy stood up and started pacing. There has to be another way. Some loophole in the law, some precedent we can use? I've been thinking about that, Jake said. What if I talk to Princess Zarathic? Really talk to her, not just formal diplomatic speak. You think that's wise? Ben asked. She's made it pretty clear she wants to kill you. Maybe, or maybe she's as trapped as I am. Jake stood up, still holding the spear. Set up a meeting, just her and me. No guards, no officials, no one else. Hey, Jake, that's dangerous, Amy said. She's a trained warrior. If she decides to attack, I'll deal with it. But we need to understand each other if we're going to find a way out of this mess. 2 hours later, Jake found himself in a small garden behind the palace. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Princess Zarathic sat on a stone bench near a fountain, her golden fur glowing in the twilight. You asked to see me, she said without looking up. I did. Jake sat down on the other end of the bench, keeping the spear between them. I want to understand. Understand what? Why you threw this at me. And don't tell me it was just anger. I've been thinking about it for 3 days, and it doesn't make sense. Zarathic was quiet for a long moment. You wouldn't understand. Try me. She finally looked at him, her amber eyes reflecting the dying light. My people are dying, Captain Morrison. Not from disease or war, but from pride, from refusing to change. What do you mean? We call ourselves the greatest warriors in the galaxy, but we haven't won a real war in 200 years. Our enemies develop new weapons, new tactics, new technologies, and we respond by shouting about honor and charging at them with spears. Jake listened carefully. This was not what he had expected. I have studied human history, Zarathic continued. I know how your people fought wars. How you learned to adapt, to use new weapons, to work together instead of always competing with each other. We had to, Jake said. We nearly destroyed ourselves a few times. Yes, and that taught you wisdom. The Cathani have never faced that kind of choice. We have always been strong enough to survive through pure force, but now, now you're not? Now. Our enemies are stronger. They have weapons that can destroy entire planets. They have ships that can travel faster than light without crystals. They have armies of machines that never get tired, never feel fear, never make mistakes. Jake began to understand. And you're still fighting them with spears and honor. My grandmother and the other matriarchs refused to see it. They think that if we just train harder, fight braver, show more honor, we will win. But honor doesn't stop laser beams. Courage doesn't protect against nuclear weapons. So you threw the spear at me because I wanted to show them that strength comes in many forms. I studied human military tactics. I knew that humans train for quick reflexes, for catching things, for baseball and other sports. I thought that if a human could catch a Cathani weapon, it might make them think. Think about what? About working with other races instead of just conquering them. About learning from aliens instead of just fighting them. About changing our ways before it's too late. Jake felt a new respect for the alien princess. You were trying to save your people. I was trying to save everyone. If the Cathani Empire falls, it will create a power vacuum. Other races will fight to fill it. The galaxy will be thrown into chaos. But you didn't expect me to actually catch the spear. Zarathik smiled for the first time since he had met her. No, I expected you to duck or run or cry for help. I never imagined a human would have the reflexes to catch a Cathani weapon in full flight. I used to play baseball, Jake said. It's a human sport where you hit a small ball with a stick. You have to have good reflexes. Baseball, Zarathik repeated the word slowly. I have heard of this. It is a game, but it trains warriors, it trains athletes, people who compete in sports for fun. But yes, it develops skills that can be useful in other situations. Fascinating. The Cathani have no such thing. Our young people train for war from birth. They learn to fight, but they don't learn to think. Maybe that's the problem, Jake said carefully. Maybe your people need to learn new ways of being strong, perhaps. But it is too late for me. I am bound by the ancient law. I must either marry you, challenge you to combat, or bring shame to my entire race. What if there was another option? Zarathik looked at him with interest. What do you mean? What if we worked together? What if we found a way to honor the law while also showing your people that cooperation is stronger than conquest? I don't understand. Jake stood up and began pacing. The law was created to bring strength to your people from other races, right? What if we did exactly that, but in a way that helps both our species? You mean actually go through with the bonding ceremony? I mean create a partnership that shows both our peoples what we can accomplish together. Not marriage in the romantic sense, but an alliance, a symbol. Zarathik was quiet for a long moment. You would do that? You would bind yourself to an alien princess to save both our peoples from war? I would do that to save lives. Human lives, Cathani lives, and the lives of everyone else who would suffer if our species went to war. The ceremony is sacred too? My people, it would mean sharing rank, power, responsibility. You would become a prince of the Cathani Empire. I would become your partner in all things, and you would become a bridge between our species. Someone who could help the Cathani learn from humanity without losing their own culture. Zarathik stood up as well. It would be difficult. Many of my people would see it as betrayal. They would say I'm abandoning Cathani traditions. And many humans would say I'm abandoning human values. But maybe that's what leadership means. Making hard choices for the greater good. You speak of leadership. Do you think you could lead Cathani warriors? Jake thought about it. I think I could learn, if I had the right teacher. And I think I could learn human ways of thinking. If I had the right partner. They looked at each other across the garden. The sun had finished setting, and the stars were beginning to appear in the alien sky. There's one problem, Zarathik said finally. The ceremony requires that we prove our worthiness to each other. There will be tests, challenges, trials that we must face together. What kind of tests? I don't know exactly. The law is ancient, and much of it has been forgotten. But I know that both partners must demonstrate their strength, their wisdom, their courage, and their commitment to each other. Then we'll face them together, Jake said, as partners. As partners, Zarathik agreed. But Captain Morrison, you must understand. If we do this, there will be no going back. The bond, once made, is permanent. We will be connected for the rest of our lives. Jake picked up the crystal spear and held it out to her. Then I guess we better make sure we can trust each other. Zarathik took the spear with both hands. I have been wrong about humans. You are not weak, you are not cowards, you are simply different. And I've been wrong about the Cathani. You're not just warriors. The morning of the trials dawned clear and bright over Valthara. Jake Morrison stood in his room, looking out at the crowds gathering in the palace courtyard. Word had spread across the planet that the ancient strength claim would be tested today. Thousands of Cathani had come to witness something that hadn't happened in 300 years. Amy knocked and entered, carrying a set of clothes made from Cathani materials. "A ceremonial outfit," she said. "Princess Zarathik sent it for you." The clothes were simple but well made. Brown leather pants, a white shirt, and a vest decorated with small crystals. Jake put them on, surprised at how comfortable they felt. "How are you feeling?" Amy asked. "Nervous," Jake admitted. "I still don't know exactly what these trials involve." "I've been researching," Amy said. "The trials test 4 kinds of strength: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. But the exact details are different each time, depending on the people involved." "That's not very helpful, I know. But Jake, remember what Princess Zarathik said. You're partners now." "She helped you through this." Ben Clark appeared in the doorway. "It's time," he said. "They're waiting for you in the courtyard." Jake took a deep breath and followed his friends outside. The courtyard was packed with Cathani of all ages. They filled every available space, sitting on walls, hanging from windows, crowding together. On the ground, Jake had never seen so many alien faces in one place. At the center of the courtyard, a large circle had been marked on the ground with white stones. Inside the circle stood Princess Zarathik, wearing her own ceremonial clothes. Her golden fur gleamed in the sunlight, and her amber eyes found Jake immediately. Elder Matriarch Valandra stood beside the circle, along with the other matriarchs and the ancient Cathara. As Jake approached, the crowd fell silent. "Captain Jake Morrison," Valandra called out in a voice that carried across the entire courtyard. "Do you come here willingly to face the trial of strength?" "I do," Jake replied, trying to make his voice as strong as hers. "Princess Zarathik, do you accept this human as your partner in the trials?" "I do," Zarathik said firmly. "Then let the first trial begin, the trial of physical strength." Jake stepped into the circle, and the crowd began to murmur with excitement. He had expected to face Princess Zarathik in combat, but instead, 3 other Cathani warriors entered the circle. They were all males, all huge, and all looked like they could tear Jake apart without breathing hard. "You must defeat these 3 warriors," Valandra announced. "You may use any means necessary. Your partner may advise you, but she cannot fight for you." The first warrior was the biggest Cathani Jake had ever seen. He stood nearly 8 feet tall and had muscles like a bodybuilder. He carried a sword. That was almost as long as Jake was tall. "Remember," Zarathik whispered as she moved to stand beside Jake. "Strength is not just about size. Use your human advantages." "What advantages?" Jake muttered as the big warrior advanced on him. "Speed, flexibility, intelligence. Think like a human, not like a Cathani." The warrior swung his massive sword in a wide arc. Jake dove to the side, rolling across the ground as the blade whistled over his head. The crowd cheered, but Jake knew he couldn't keep dodging forever. "His legs," Zarathik called out. "He's top-heavy. Go for his legs." Jake saw what she meant. The warrior was so muscular on top that his legs looked almost small in comparison. Jake feinted left, then dropped low and swept his leg out. Catching the warrior behind the knees, the big Cathani went down like a falling tree, his sword flying from his hands. Jake grabbed the weapon and held it to the warrior's throat. "Yield," the warrior said with a grin. "Well fought, human." The second warrior was faster than the first, armed with 2 curved daggers. He moved like water, flowing around Jake's attacks and striking back with lightning speed. "Don't try to match his speed," Zarathik advised. "Use the environment." Jake looked around the circle and saw what she meant. The white stones that marked the boundary were loose. As the warrior lunged at him, Jake grabbed a handful of stones and threw them at the Cathani's face. The warrior stumbled, momentarily blinded. Jake tackled him around the waist, using his lower center of gravity to drive the larger alien to the ground. They wrestled for a moment before Jake managed to pin him. "Yield," the second warrior gasped. The third warrior was different from the other two. He was smaller, more like Jake's size, but he moved with the precision of a trained fighter. He carried no weapons except his claws and teeth. "This one is dangerous," Zarathik warned. "He fights like I do, pure skill, no wasted motion." The warrior circled Jake slowly, looking for an opening. Jake tried to remember everything he had learned in military training. "Keep your guard up, watch his eyes, don't let him get behind you." The warrior struck without warning, his claws aimed at Jake's throat. Jake caught his wrist and twisted, using the warrior's own momentum to throw him over his shoulder. The Cathani landed hard but rolled back to his feet immediately. "Good," the warrior said with respect. "You learn quickly." They fought for several minutes, trading blows and holds. Jake was faster than he had expected, and his human fighting techniques seemed to confuse the Cathani warrior. Finally, Jake managed to get behind him and lock his arm around the warrior's throat. "Yield," the warrior said, tapping Jake's arm. The crowd erupted in cheers. Jake stood in the center of the circle, breathing hard but victorious. Zarathik looked at him with something that might have been pride. "The first trial is complete," Valandra announced. "Now comes the trial of mental strength." The warriors left the circle, and Jake found himself facing a different kind of challenge. Matriarch Cathara approached, carrying an ancient book. "Before you is a problem that has plagued our people for generations," she said. "Our enemies grow stronger while we remain trapped by tradition. How do we maintain our warrior culture while adapting to a changing galaxy?" Jake looked at Zarathik. This was exactly what they had talked about in the garden. "May I consult with my partner?" he asked. "You may." Jake and Zarathik moved to the edge of the circle and spoke quietly. "This is what you were trying to solve when you threw the spear at me," Jake said, double quotes in S. "But I never found an answer." "Maybe because you were thinking like a Cathani? What if we think like humans and Cathani together?" They talked for a few minutes, building on each other's ideas. Finally, Jake turned back to face the matriarchs. "The answer is not to choose between warrior culture and adaptation," he said. "The answer is to expand what it means to be a warrior." "Explain," Cathara said. "A human warrior learns many skills. Physical combat, yes, but also strategy, technology, diplomacy, leadership. A human general doesn't just fight with his hands. He fights with his mind, his tools, his ability to work with others." Jake gestured to the crowd around them. "The Cathani could become the greatest warriors in the galaxy by learning to fight on all levels. Physical, mental, technological, political. You could teach other races about honor and courage while learning from them about science and cooperation." "You propose that we become teachers as well as warriors?" Valandra asked. "I propose that you become complete warriors, strong in body, mind, and spirit, able to win any kind of battle, not just the ones fought with claws and teeth." The matriarchs talked among themselves in their own language. Finally, Cathara nodded. "Your solution shows wisdom?" "The second trial is complete." Jake felt relief wash over him. 2 down, 2 to go. "Now comes the trial of emotional strength," Valandra announced. This time, Princess Zarathik stepped forward. "For this trial, I must test Captain Morrison's understanding of responsibility and sacrifice." She looked directly into Jake's eyes. "If you complete these trials, you will be bound to me for life. You will share my rank, my power, and my burdens. Are you prepared to leave your old life behind? To become part of a people who are not your own? To face dangers that have nothing to do with humanity?" Jake thought about his quiet life on Earth. His small apartment, his simple job. All of that would be gone if he went through with this. "I understand the sacrifice," he said. "But I also understand the opportunity. I would gain a partner who could teach me about courage and honor." I would help build a bridge between two peoples who need each other. I would be part of something bigger than myself. And if I am killed in battle, if I die serving my people, you would be bound to honor my memory and continue my work. Yes, Jake said without hesitation. Just as you would honor mine if our positions were reversed. Zarathik smiled. Then you understand what partnership truly means. The third trial is complete. Finally, Cathara said, comes the trial of spiritual strength. For this, you must both enter the sacred caves and face the wisdom of our ancestors. Jake looked at the ancient matriarch. What does that mean? It means, Zarathik said quietly, that we go into the darkness and discover who we really are. The crowd began to move, following the matriarchs toward a series of caves in the hills behind the palace. Jake walked beside Zarathik, wondering what the final trial would bring. Are you ready for this? She asked. I don't know, Jake admitted, but I'm ready to find out. Then let us go meet our ancestors, Zarathik said, and see if they approve of what we are trying to do. The sacred caves were darker than anything Jake Morrison had ever experienced. The entrance was carved into the hillside like a giant mouth, and as he and Princess Zarathik walked deeper inside, the sunlight faded until they were surrounded by complete blackness. I can't see anything, Jake whispered. You don't need to see with your eyes in here, Zarathik replied. The ancestors will show you what you need to know. The cave walls began to glow with a soft blue light. Jake blinked in surprise as he realized the light was coming from crystals embedded in the stone. The same crystals that powered human starships were here, grown naturally in the heart of Valthara. This is where our people first learned about the crystals, Zarathik explained. This is where the ancient laws were written. This is where the spirits of our ancestors still live. They walked deeper into the cave, following a path that seemed to wind on forever. The crystal light grew brighter as they went, until the cave was filled with rainbow colors that danced on the walls like living things. Captain Morrison, a voice said from the darkness ahead. Princess Zarathik, come forward. Jake couldn't see who was speaking, but the voice sounded old and wise. As they moved toward it, the cave opened up into a huge chamber. In the center of the chamber stood a pool of water that reflected the crystal light like a mirror. This is the pool of truth, Zarathik said. Here, the ancestors speak to those who seek wisdom. Ancestors? Jake asked. The spirits of great Cathani leaders from the past. They watch over us and guide us when we need help. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't believe in ghosts, but something about this place felt very real and very powerful. Jake. Morrison, the voice spoke again. You have passed 3 trials. You have shown physical strength, mental wisdom, and emotional understanding. But the final trial is the most important. You must prove that your spirit is strong enough to lead. How do I do that? Look into the pool. See what the future holds if you fail. See what it holds if you succeed. Jake approached the pool cautiously. The water was perfectly still, like glass. As he looked down into it, the surface began to change. Images appeared in the water. He saw human and Cathani ships fighting in space, their weapons lighting up the darkness like deadly fireworks. He saw planets burning, cities destroyed, millions of people dead. He saw the Galactic Council torn apart by war. This is what happens if our peoples become enemies, the voice explained. The Cathani Empire falls. Humanity is weakened. Other races move in to fill the vacuum. The galaxy is thrown into chaos for generations. The images changed. Now Jake saw human and Cathani soldiers fighting side by side against strange alien enemies. He saw joint settlements on distant worlds with humans and Cathani working together. He saw children playing together, some human, some alien, all laughing under foreign suns. And this is what happens if our peoples become allies. The voice continued. Together we are stronger than either could be alone. Together we can face any threat. Together we can build a better future for all races. But why me? Jake asked. I'm just a diplomat. I'm not a great leader or a famous warrior. Why should I be the one to bridge 2 worlds? Because, said a new voice, you understand that. True strength comes from bringing people together, not tearing them apart. Jake turned and saw a figure emerging from the shadows. It was an old Cathani, but unlike any he had seen before. This one was smaller, more human-like, with fur that was silver instead of gold. "I am Kethmur," the figure said. "I was the last alien to be claimed through the strength claim 300 years ago. I was human like you." "Human?" Jake stared at the figure in amazement. "But you look like—" "The bonding ceremony changes you," Kethmur explained. "Not your mind or your spirit, but your body. You become part Cathani, part human. You become something new." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. "Are you saying I'll turn into an alien?" "You'll become a bridge between worlds," Kethmur said gently. "You'll be able to understand both species completely. You'll be able to speak for both peoples. You'll be the living proof that cooperation is possible. What happened to you? Why did the law stop being used after you?" Kethmur's expression grew sad. "Because I failed. I let pride and fear drive me apart from my Cathani partner. Instead of building bridges, I built walls. Instead of bringing our peoples together, I showed them why they should stay apart. And that's why the law was forgotten. Yes, the Cathani decided it was too dangerous, too easy for things to go wrong. They locked the law away and tried to pretend it didn't exist." Jake looked back at the pool where new images were forming. He saw himself and Princess Zarathik standing together on the bridge of a starship. He saw them leading joint missions to explore new worlds. He saw them working to solve problems that neither humans nor Cathani could handle alone. "I won't make your mistakes," Jake said quietly. "I believe you," Kethmur replied. "But are you ready for the price? Are you ready to give up your old life completely? Are you ready to become something that has never existed before?" Jake thought about Amy and Ben waiting for him back at the palace. He thought about his friends on Earth, his family, his simple life among people who looked and thought like him. All of that would change if he went through with this. Then he thought about the images in the pool. The wars, the death, the chaos that would come if humans and Cathani became enemies. He thought about the children playing together under Alien. Sons, the future where both species were stronger because they worked together. "I'm ready," he said. "And I am ready as well," Princess Zarathik said, stepping up beside him. "I have seen what happens when the Cathani try to stand alone. We become weak, stubborn, unable to change. But together with humanity we can become what we were meant to be. Then it is time," the ancestor voice said. "Step into the pool together. Let the waters of truth wash away your old selves and create something new." Jake and Zarathik looked at each other. She held out her hand and he took it without hesitation. "Together?" she asked. "Together," he agreed. They stepped into the pool side by side. The water was warm and seemed to glow brighter as they entered it. Jake felt a tingling sensation spreading through his body, like electricity running through his veins. The cave began to spin around them, the crystal lights becoming streaks of color. Jake held tight to Zarathik's hand as the world dissolved into light and sound and something beyond both. When the spinning stopped, they were standing in the center of the pool, but everything had changed. Jake looked down at himself and gasped. His skin had a faint golden tint, and his eyes now had flecks of amber in them. He was still human, but something more as well. Zarathik had changed too. Her golden fur now had streaks of brown in it, the color of human hair. Her amber eyes had gained flecks of blue. She was still Cathani, but something more as well. "It is done," the ancestor voice said with satisfaction. "The bond is complete. You are no longer just human and Cathani. You are partners in the truest sense. You are the beginning of something new." They walked out of the caves hand in hand, changed but still themselves. The crowd was waiting for them in the courtyard, and when they saw Jake and Zarathik emerge, a great cheer went up. Elder Matriarch Vilendra stood before them with tears in her ancient eyes. "The trials are complete," she announced. "The bond is sealed. Let all the galaxy know that humans and Cathani are now joined in partnership." Amy and Ben rushed forward to greet Jake. Amy stared at his changed appearance with amazement, while Ben just shook his head and grinned. Leave it to you to come on a simple diplomatic mission and end up getting married to an alien princess, Ben said. It's not marriage, Jake corrected. It's partnership, something completely new. And what happens now? Amy asked. Jake looked at Zarathik, then at the crowd of humans and Cathani around them. Now we build the future, together. 6 months later, Jake Morrison and Princess Zarathik stood on the bridge of a new kind of starship. It was built with both human technology and Cathani craftsmanship, faster and stronger than anything either species had created alone. Their partnership had become the foundation for a new alliance between their peoples. Human scientists worked in Cathani laboratories. Cathani warriors trained alongside human soldiers. Children from both species learned together in schools that taught the best of both cultures. Where to today? Zarathik asked, settling into the captain's chair beside Jake's. The Andromeda system, Jake replied, checking the navigation display. There are reports of a new species there that might need our help. Our help? Zarathik repeated with a smile. I like the sound of that. As their ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving Valthara behind, Jake thought about the ancient law that had brought them together. It had started with a spear thrown in anger and caught by instinct, but it had become something neither of them could have imagined. The law that had once spoken of claiming and owning had been transformed into something about partnership and cooperation. Jake and Zarathik were living proof that different species could find strength in unity rather than dominance. And in the vast galaxy around them, other species were beginning to take notice. The partnership between humans and Cathani was showing everyone that the future belonged not to the strongest, or the smartest, or the most advanced, but to those who could work together.